Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good day, everybody, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Makepeace. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Making miracles an everyday life skill. If you're curious about energy magic, then you need to meet our guest today. Her life flows with universal consciousness to create continuous miracles in her life. From breezing through life-threatening health challenges to attracting the love of her life, discovering the secrets of alchemy. She merged this knowledge with 25 years of being a healer to create the Ascension Code and energetically align with her higher self-wisdom. Let's welcome to the seance today, Elizabeth Makepeace. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hey, Dr. Paul, how you going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, I'm intrigued. This magic, energy magic. Oh yes, oh yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did this life path start?
Wow, how did it start?
Yeah.
It started actually way back as a kid. I actually didn't realize, I had any connection to spirit. Didn't grow up in a family that was religious or anything like that. I had an auntie that was Christian and got her hands on me as soon as she could, whenever she could, right? But yeah, basically grew up in a family where I was the only girl, last child. My dad was sick on a kidney machine, and I used to lay next to him when he was on the machine and just say, I don't want you to die. Don't die on me. No, I'm not going to die. And yeah, sure enough, when I was 15, he got a kidney, and then it didn't work, and they took it out. And so he wasn't expected to die, but those two things sort of happened, and then he passed away at home while I was at school.
Wow.
And so it started there because I had this weird feeling straight away. One, I knew, they came to get me at school, and I said, he's dead, isn't he? I just knew.
Yeah.
But I had this strange feeling he was in a library somewhere. I was like, Is there a library in heaven or hell, or what, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And through that process, one, went through a 10-year grieving process, went off the rails, left home, all the things as a 15-year-old, started hanging out with a guy from school, and we were together for 10 years and got into all sorts of mischief, but then through that process was trying to work out what is this place, and where did Dad go, and all of those things. And at the end of those 10 years, I left. We had kids, and I had to get my shit together, basically.
Yeah.
And so through that process, that's when I spiritually woke up. I went to a psychic that someone kept on hassling me to go to. Wasn't my scene. I thought that they were a bit of, charlatans. My head's quite scientific, so it was like, don't really believe in that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I walked into her place, and she's like, "What are you doing here? You can do what I do, but obviously you don't know it." And had an encounter with my dad, and next thing I've got things touching me, and like for 3 days, and rang her up, said, "What's going on?" And she's like, they're just happy that you've woken up. It'll settle down. And I said, "Well, can I make another booking?" And she said no. I'm like, huh? So
Like,
so
you're
when
on your own now.
which was really the case, because I didn't have anyone that I knew that was on a path like this, no spiritual friends. So I was sort of left to my own devices, which is where it all started, really.
Yeah. Like, out of the frying pan and into the fire. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I totally understand now, because I think I would have leaned on her.
Use her as a crutch of some sort.
Yeah. And so, I had to work it out myself. And, I had experiences rather than gained knowledge. So it became an experiential experience.
Yeah.
I did find myself in a little group, that for 7 years after that was, I learned past life regression training, like for 7 years, quite intense, like nearly every single weekend we were doing, past life regression. And I was in a woman's book. She was, documenting it all, me and other people.
Yeah.
And then I started facilitating, and that sort of started my healing aspect of it,
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's so, and I've experienced this a lot. Pretty much most of it is experiences. Certain experiences are more like a assist with downloaded information. It's like you don't know what to do, how to do it, but as soon as you have these specific experiences, you suddenly know it. You're like, whoa. As though the experience itself is a download of information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I started having some pretty crazy experiences, and I still didn't believe in any of it, right? Like, I was having some really weird past life regressions, and then I facilitated it. So, one of the first ones I sort of stuffed up, and through that process, then had to sort it out from a distance, because it was with a young kid, and had to sort it out from a distance, and it worked. And it's like, and when it sort of went a bit haywire, his mum was like, "I don't know how you're going to fix this, because he now thinks you're a witch, right? So he's not going to let you go near him." And so I'm like, what do I do here? So, I was on the other side of the beach suburb, and sorted it out from my house. And when I finally rang her back, she told me exactly the time, how it happened, what happened. I'm like, I got off the phone, went, "Oh crap, I am a witch." Like, it freaked me out. Like, what's going on? Who am I working for? All the things.
Yeah.
Through that, I went, a couple of days later, by myself. I live in Australia, right? So I was up in far north Queensland at the time. Went to the Daintree forest, rainforest, and called out to the universe. Who am I working for? What's going on? I need a sign. Blah blah blah. And through that experience, I had 3 shooting stars.
Wow.
Right when I asked for a confirmation. Well, that then gave me the ability to recognize things that were happening. I was seeing a spirit on the side of the road that I'd pretend was a reflection pole, because I didn't want to know that I could see her.
Yeah.
And so when I had those 3 shooting stars, I went, okay, now I can see that little, I'll let myself acknowledge that there's a little girl on the side of the road.
Huh.
And when I finally went to that place, next time I saw her, She was in a Victorian nightdress. She'd been waiting. I said, what's going on? And she was waiting for her father to come home. And he, straight away, when you have these sort of experiences, you get one piece of information and it downloads all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So within seconds of asking her, she's, I've got this information that he had gone to work, was working on the Kuranda Railway, which was up the Tablelands, horse and cart accident, and had died. And so as soon as she gave me, or that information came through, I saw, 50 odd people behind her. And I was able to tell her, like, hey, turn around, your dad's behind you. Bang, all of them go straight instantly. And I never saw her again.
Wow.
And so, it was months later, I was in Cairns. They were putting up these tourist information little stands.
Yeah.
And I saw the history of the Kuranda Railway being made and found out horse and cart and how many people had died. And, so I got confirmation that was, that was a possibility. Yeah. So, you start getting evidence that, well, maybe there's something going on here, right? It's a little bit more. Yeah.
I like when that information comes in after the fact, later on, a day, 2 days, a week, a year. It's like boom, and it hits you. You're like, whoa, it's awesome. It's awesome. So this work that you do, the Ascension Code that you have created. Before we move on, how do people find you? Where can they go? It's for those who are watching. It's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. But give a little bit of information where they can find you and a little bit about your website.
Yeah, so my middle name is Eleanor and it's spelled a little bit differently. It's Elenor. So my website's elizabetheleanor.com. I'm on Facebook as well, so you can find me. My business page is Peacemaker Ascension Portal. And I'm Elizabeth Eleanor on Facebook, but I'm on all the channels, but Facebook is sort of where I hang out the most. Yeah. so you can come and check me out there.
Cool. And we'll have those contacts and stuff like that, especially the website in the show description. So the Ascension Code. Before we get to that, the whole energy. As far as tapping into and reading energy, how does the work that you do differ from the law of attraction?
It's law of attraction is, first of all, it's a law, right? And there's so many people out there that are giving information, and it depends on your level of consciousness whether you read between the lines, right? But it can sound like half-truths. One of the things about the law of attraction, and way back there was that movie The Secret. Do you remember the movie The Secret, right?
Yeah, was it Bob Proctor, I think, was the one? Wait, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And so the mainstream society go, I just have to think of a car and it's going to turn up, right? And so everyone, like in the spiritual community, is like, that's a bad thing. But it was good because it started opening up some eyes out there in society that we're creating, right? Mm-hmm. And whether we're consciously aware of it or not, we're all creating all the time. Yeah. Most of the time it's unconscious though. So how it differs is there's structure to it. There's more to it than just law of attraction, right? One of the things that you want to make sure when you're choosing to, engage with the law of attraction is that you've got to know what it is that you want to create. And that's a big one in itself because a lot of people, we're so distracted by the world and social media, and like we're just on our phones all the time, right? And it's conditioned into us to be distracted and not stop, reflect, refine, do all the things. So when we're creating, we're usually creating because we don't have something. I want money because I don't have money. I want love because I feel lonely. I want health because I'm sick. And so we're then distorting the field because now we've got this reality of we're not well, or let's just say love, right? I'm alone and I want love, but you're acknowledging the part of you that's alone, and then you're acknowledging the part that wants something. So now you've got two things plus your current reality with all of the unconscious patterning from your childhood and past lives and all the things, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a distortion because you're going backwards and forwards. That is a choice made from lack. But when you can come from a place of, I truly just want something just for the fun of it, just because I want it, just because with no other reason, that's a true choice. So you want to create from, I want to create this for no other reason other than I want to create it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. You've got to know what you want to create. Now, we live in this field where there is only the now moment. And there's only one now moment, but it seems like thousands, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just a continuum. And so there's no past, it's gone, it's a memory. There's no future, it's a potential. And so when you go, this is what I want to create, it has to be that you become that now in your now moment. So when you choose something, how would that person that has that thing already behave? What would they do? What are their beliefs? What is their everyday, normal, day-to-day experience? What are they doing that you're not doing? And what are you doing that they wouldn't be doing?
Yeah.
So you start becoming that person. So that's the second part. You become the person, right? The third part is looking at what's going on in your current reality that's getting in the way. So we have beliefs, we have, beliefs from our childhood, beliefs of the world, beliefs of others that have infiltrated us. Then we've got past lives, as I was saying before. And then on top of that, epigenetics is proving that it's not just health conditions that we energetically have, or, that we have in our DNA. We also have past traumas from our generations prior. So generational history actually within our DNA. So we've got all of this gunk, if you will. I call it the tethered soul.
Yeah.
That's just so heavy with so much stuff that's weighing us down and making us believe that this is who we are. We're separate, we're broken, there's stuff going on, right? That is, this is who I am and this is how I have to behave. When you're working with creation and you recognize yourself as a creator and that you have a pure spirit, it's clearing all of that, cleaning up all those beliefs that don't actually serve you. That's how I do a process called recoding. So, we clear that from the source of where it came from, get rid of it straight away. It's permanent, it releases all of that energy. Or you can, it takes a lot longer, but you could do it with mindset training as well, is, just constantly reminding yourself that this is not who you are and going into who you want to become.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth step. And the fifth step is, once you've cleaned that up, is you've got to take aligned action. You've got to be in that space where you're listening to your higher self, that part of you that's already become that, your future self that's giving you and guiding you. So your intuition, and taking aligned action with what your wisdom is telling you to do. that day, like just the first step, not the whole thing, just what is it that you're being guided to do today? And you just take aligned action.
Huh. What are at least 3 things that our listeners can or our listeners need to know about creating something, whatever it is?
The first thing is to actually believe that you've got the ability to. Really to recognize, and this is really important. So I'm like, whoever's listening, really pick your ears up and hear this, because every single moment we've got a choice. We've got a choice to listen to that voice inside that's saying, I can't, I'm not good enough, I'm insignificant, whatever it might be. And stop listening to that voice and start recognizing that you're freaking powerful. Like, we have the ability to do so much more than what we think we do, you know, to make different decisions in any given moment. Whenever you feel like you're weighted down, that you're you're stuck, you're depressed, whatever's going on, you have the choice to change that, and you can. And it takes those incremental moments. You know, if you've got no help, just make a different choice, just a little bit. Like if you're feeling really, challenged with life, it's not trying to jump to being, in joy and ecstasy, is just moving the needle a little bit to how can I just feel a little bit better? And just taking those slow incremental moments, So that's the first thing, is really to recognize that we have the power to be and do, and experience ourselves however we choose. The next thing I would say is to take action on that. One of the things that, movies like The Secret sort of, I don't even remember if they implied that, you don't have to do anything, but that was the theme that sort of came out of that, in society. Let's all just, sit around, meditate, and we're going to have a Lamborghini and all that sort of stuff,
Or like, I think like a vision board. I think a vision board was part of it,
Yeah.
Just having pictures of your desires.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can share a little bit about that, and vision boards can be a little bit of a tool, right? But it's taking that action. Like, what is it that I can do today? What is it that I can, again, just that little movement of the needle, one little action that you can do today that's going to support you. One of the things, having a business, you've got 500 things that you've got to do, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do is I'll put the timer on for 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, for 10 minutes, I'm working on the stuff that's in November. Because now, if I'm doing 10 minutes a day, by the time November comes, I've got it all sorted. And I can just schedule it out or whatever, like I've got it all there. There's no stress. I'm not backpedaling. 10 minutes a day seems like nothing, but because I'm doing those incremental moments, I'm not in stress or overwhelm, and that's the same when it comes to health and love and anything. Just what can you do? One thing that you can do today. And you said 3, right?
Doesn't have to be unless there is a third one.
Yeah. Let me just think.
Keep a minimum.
Yeah.
Have another episode if we had more than 3, probably.
Well, yeah. Well, I would say if I'm going to give a third one, it would be, one of the things that I know of society and know of people is that we're so in our head. We're constantly listening to that critic that's telling us all the negatives. So if I had a third action for your listeners, would be to say, do some sort of, practice to step out of that. However that might be. It might be meditation, prayer, if that's what works for them, mindfulness training, even float tanks, something that's going to, take out all stimulation, and you're just with yourself, and breathing exercise, something that's just going to step you out of that critical mind that chatters away in the background, to start practicing to have some blank space. Actually, that's another one, is to unplug from everything.
The
Oh my
technology.
gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unplugging
Yeah.
good from the technology. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go out.
absolutely.
Yeah. Unplug, go out, go for a walk, go for a hike, go out into nature. Like when you mentioned you went out to nature to connect, to ask these
Yes.
questions. Sometimes we have to do that. We have to unplug and walk away from this material world for a little bit, all the technology.
Absolutely. Because it wires us, it wires us in, and it's really crucial to, I spend an hour in the morning, no gadgets, and the same, in the afternoon before I go to bed. I make sure I've got an hour after before I go to bed where I've unplugged from everything, so that it gives my brain and mind enough time to decompress.
Yeah. We need that decompression.
Mm.
Try to do that every day. Try to at least do that every day. A daily routine meditation, breath work, something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's get into the Ascension Code and your website. Explain what people can expect going to your website and some of your services.
So the Ascension Code is, I learned a process called recoding from a few different mentors, putting things together. The Ascension Code is something that developed because of that. So there's different layers to my business, and everything to me, bringing the magic aspect back in. And, I might use magic, the word and definition of it, very differently to other people. But it's bringing the sparkle, like the energetic flow back in that we're all missing out on, that creative spark.
Yeah.
And so everything, all of the stuff from when you come into my world, I have things that for people that are just starting out, have no idea what's going on and want to develop themselves. So I've got things from self-awareness and all the way through, like to recognize who you are, and then stepping into sort of like a spiral, a vortex, a portal, going through that process into all the way to really creating from a high frequency. And so I do recoding, but through that process, my higher self, which I call superconscious, gave me more information, because when you're really in flow, when you're like in line with consciousness, like that quantum field, that superconscious, you then are tapped out of the normal and you're living in this genius zone, right?
Yeah.
And so the Ascendance Code came because I started getting new information directly from that source. And so I'd learnt stuff from my mentors, and then through that it started developing and shifting into something very different, because I just got directly from source information. And so at my higher level, I do different work that's really specific to just clearing instantly through a level of consciousness, just really breaking up things that downloading, sort of like the Matrix, like,
Yeah.
downloading the information
Yeah.
straight from source.
Yeah. Plugging into the matrix or getting those downloads and stuff like that. Yeah. How does science come into play with this spiritual practice that you have?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, people put them as separate, but I've dabbled in learning and listening to various things, just to work it all out. And so there's a couple of things that I teach people that have, want to actually get into the spiritual side of things, but their brain still works with the pragmatic and the practical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a few things that I play with. So have you ever heard of the double slit experiment?
Oh yeah. Using the photon.
Yeah.
Yep. Just by
So
the act of observation, that as an
yes.
observer changes the outcome of the experiment.
Yeah. So, these scientists got together, just to put it as a basic, these scientists got together, they decided they wanted to see what happened with this laser, putting it, through two slits in a piece of paper. What would happen on the back of the wall? What happened? Two slits, right?
Yeah.
Two slits on the wall, like, obvious. But then apparently this is something that happens on a regular basis. Scientists forget to turn off their machines and whatever. They go away, leave the machine on, go to lunch, whatever goes on. They come back and there's all this mess on the back of the wall. And so they're like, what happened? So, like, through the process, they discover that when you're observing something, like, so the laser becomes a pinpoint particle, a focal point, right? But when they're observing it, it's a particle and it's a focal point. When they weren't observing it, it became a wave. So now you bring that into all the information I was just sharing. You've got to have a desired end result. You've got to have a focal point. Because if you're not creating, if we're not consciously creating what we want, then we're a wave, which is a wave of potential.
Yeah.
So now there's this wave waiting to be guided. And if you're not creating your reality and creating that focal point, somebody else is doing it for you. And it might be, the local petrol station. You'll go, here you are wanting to lose weight. And you go to the local petrol station and now there's signs everywhere. Buy one, get one free. Right? And you're not consciously focused, and they're consciously focused on, we want you to buy this. And so they've smashed it everywhere. And you're not focused on what it is that you want to create. And you have now been led down somebody else's path.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got to focus. So the double slit experiment is a really great one to bring that reality in. Another one that I play with is the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci. Yep.
Yeah. So Fibonacci is a pattern, right? And so it's also the golden ratio, right? It's the way that plants grow. It's the way nature creates. So for those that don't know, it's the way the pattern goes is you've got to go back one to get the next result. So Fibonacci goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So each time you're going, so you've got 5, you've got to go back to 3 to get 8.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to step back 1. Now, because of that, as it goes up, it's got this spiral, this curve, because as you start going into double, triple numbers, it becomes exponential growth. So when you're looking at that, and because it's a natural way of creating, there's 2 parts to this. One, when you're starting to create, it looks like nothing's happening, right? And most people start doubting that there's anything going on just as that curve's starting to go into triple numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like people start doubting the process and they let go of the experience. And so they forget, like that, hey, I'm just keep focusing, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. But the other part of it is if we're looking at, moving forward 1 to get a result means that we've got to step back. Look at that from a place of reflect and refine, because there's actually 3 ways that we create. 3 structures. We're either stuck because we don't know what we want to create and we've got too many options, and so we don't do anything, right? So we're stuck in a rut where, not moving forward. The main one that a lot of people do is, we oscillate. So we either move towards it, but if you haven't cleaned up what your condition is and what you believe, then if you believe that you're going to be good enough when you find love, for example, but your identity believes that you're not good enough, well, your identity is not going to let you have love, because it negates what it believes that's actually kept you alive, right? So our unconscious, it's got all this stuff in it that believes that it's keeping us safe. So all this stuff, like if I'm not good enough, then I know that by believing I'm not good enough, it's kept me alive. So if I'm going towards something that's going to make me feel good enough, but I haven't cleaned that up, we're going to sabotage ourselves to go back into not feeling good enough. And so we're getting here, we're really close, and then we just pull back, right? So we oscillate. We're close, we come back. We're close, we come back. Or another way of oscillating is we actually get the result, but we can't sustain it because we've still got this identity. And so you get the love, and next thing, somehow you sabotage the relationship, or they end up doing it because they weren't the right vibration, and off you go straight back into, see, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, whatever it might be. That's your main sabotage belief, right?
Yeah.
The third way is when you're just in total flow. You've created, you believe that you're good enough or that you're worthy over here, and you believe it over here, and you're actually just in flow with the creation, and it's just time and space that's the framework to get you to what you want to go to, right? So when you're going back to the Fibonacci sequence, if you use reflect and refine as part of your process, so you've got you're either stuck or you're oscillating, you get some sort of result. If you then reflect, and it's not the one you wanted, right? So you get a result. Some people call that a failure, right? However, if we go into, okay, this isn't the result I wanted, what happened that caused this to not get the result I wanted? So going back a step, looking at what the steps were that you went through, and then being able to go, well, actually, this is where, my thought processes came in, I sabotaged it, whatever might happen, and you can reflect on it so that the next time you can actually change it at that point and make a different choice, a better choice. and move more into a flow structure.
Mm.
And so when you start recognizing, actually this works, I'm going to keep this, like these steps that I did have worked, so I'm just going to repeat them.
Yeah.
And that repeating that process, because the way we do one thing is the way we do all things. When you repeat that process, you get the success that you're wanting in whatever it is that you want to create.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really good explanation of it. Really good explanation of it.
No, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before we close the show, again, how can people find you?
So Facebook's a really good one. Elizabeth Eleanor, ELENOR .com is my website. And find me on all the channels, but Facebook is the one that I'm on. I've got team that do other, like Instagram and all that sort of stuff. I often forget to go on them, but I'm sure I'll get the message, right? So
yeah, definitely. So before we wrap up the show, what would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience today?
So, generally when I'm doing a podcast, I'm talking about the fact that, I met this beautiful man and on the beach and all of that. That's an amazing story, for another time maybe. But I've got a free resource called the Love Code. So that's an opportunity for anyone that's looking for love. It's a meditation that you can go through, a visualization. And anyone that wants to look for anything else or want to just find out how to work with me, I can share the link just to do a 20-minute call, and we can have a talk about what's specific for you and what it is that you want to release and start creating in your life.
Yeah, definitely. It's about time that we get away from the unneeded technology in our lives and get back to creating the things that mean the most to us, so that we are all happy on this planet instead of all miserable.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? The more we give out all of these things to make our life easier, the more we disconnect from each other and nature and ourselves, so
that's weird. I wouldn't say weird, but that's ironic that
yes,
we have all of this not new technology, but all this crazy technology out there that is supposed to make things easy to communicate, to do all this stuff, but it just seems like the world is more pissed off. It's just mad and just, I don't know. Everybody seems to be in a bad mood all the time, and I don't know,
disconnected. Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes, we definitely need to start creating, right?
Yeah, create what we desire, create what we want, create what we love, and just start doing it. And I think as we, with your techniques and the work that you do, I feel as we're moving out of the third dimension then into the fourth and fifth, this stuff will become easier. And we got to get the, I wouldn't say new generation, but it's a technique that we should all be doing as a collective. Because could you imagine what the world would be like if we all did this as a collective?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Within moments, right? Like, because the technology is out there to make massive changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's been hidden, it's not being utilized the way it should.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't take very long to clean this place up and to bring harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be awesome. Yeah.
It would be. The ancient, lost, tapped technologies and ancient forbidden, I would call it forbidden knowledge, But yeah, it's the knowledge that has been hidden from us, and we're rediscovering it.
Yeah. Taking a little while, but it is happening, which is cool.
Yeah. Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a blessing to have you with us and speaking with us today. And welcome back anytime. And is there a book coming anytime soon? Is there any other work that you're working on that we can be on a lookout for?
I'm not working on a book, but I've been guided that I've got many books, many books to come. So yeah, I don't know when you're listening to this, it might be that I'm already, got several books. I don't know, but it's not anything I'm working on at the moment. But I know there's many books in here, that just need to come out. So
same here. They're all in here, but it's just a matter of getting them on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Dr. Paul. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. Anytime. Thank you. Namaste, my friend.
Cheers.
And thank you, everybody, for watching The Seance on Conscious Radio Network. And until next time, we will see you